In Lecture 9, we're going to be looking at taxes and subsidies. These are pretty important for us to understand because, well, taxes are the main way by which governments fund their activities, and the government sector is a pretty big part of the modern economy. Depending on how you measure it, somewhere between maybe 20 and 40% of the economy is touched by the government in some way, and much of that funding comes through taxes. There's a little assumption that we're going to make here, which is not going to be particularly relevant today, but is going to be more relevant next week. We assume that tax revenues get returned to the public in some way. And in that way, we say that those tax revenues are neither better nor worse than money in the hands of the public. That's not to say that there isn't a downside to taxing, and we'll get onto that more next week. But the point of this is that, yes, the government sometimes wastes money, but the government also has things that it can do with this money that we as individuals can't, like run a military, say, or fund public roading. Because of this, government's got disadvantages sometimes in spending money and advantages sometimes in spending money. It's not clear whether a dollar in the hands of the government should be better or worse than in the hands of the general public. We make the assumption, just to keep life easy, that these revenues are just equally as good, whether they're in my hands, your hands, or the government's hands. Okay, so having said that, there's two main types of taxes that we could study here. The first one is a percentage tax, and this is by far the most common in the United States, where the tax is assessed as some percentage of the sale price of a particular product. That actually makes the math a little bit harder, so instead we're going to choose to study per unit taxes. Per unit taxes come about when we have a particular dollar amount of tax that's independent of the selling price of the product. So two big examples of that you might be familiar with. Tax on cigarettes is a per unit tax. It's, as of 2023, $1.60 per pack here in Ohio, and different places around the country charge different amounts. Different states charge different amounts. You can have a look at the fact sheet that I've got linked in Blackboard to see those, and some counties and cities impose higher taxes as well. Maybe the most familiar for us, though, is the gasoline tax. So the federal government charges 18.4 cents per gallon for gasoline, and then states add on some amount. Ohio adds on 38.51 cents for a grand total of 56.91 cents per gallon. And that's independent of the price of gasoline. We have to pay that amount in taxation per gallon of gasoline, no matter how much it's costing. And I've got a link in Blackboard to a map of taxes across the country